Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to be talking about fictional narratives. We're going to be talking about what they are, why people write them, and we're going to talk a little bit about the structure of a fictional narrative, and then we'll go over some questions you can ask yourself as you prepare to write your own fictional narrative. So let's go ahead and get started. So the lesson I'm about to go over is available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store, and the link is in the video description, along with the link to my entire creative writing course. For my students in Myanmar, please do not purchase anything from my Teachers Pay Teachers store. If you need something, please just send me a message in Signal, and I will send it to you for free. So let's talk about what fictional narratives are. So when we look at the word narrative, narrative is just a fancy word for story. And something that's fictional is made up. So a fictional narrative is just a made up story. And like all good writing, a fictional narrative has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we often find sequence words in fictional narratives because they're often told in sequence order. There's a character, a setting, and a plot in a fictional narrative. And remember, these can be real or they can be imagined. So fictional narratives can have elements of fantasy or they can be realistic. So fictional narratives allow us to be very creative because we don't have to tell a story that really happened. And that makes them very, very fun to write. So let's talk about how fictional narratives are often structured. They're often structured around a problem and a solution. If you followed any of my other academic writing videos, you've probably seen the problem and solution essay covered. Problem and solution in literature is a little bit different. It is a problem or a scenario or situation that the main characters meet, and they have to solve the problem, they have to accomplish a task, or they have to figure something out. So the steps that they take to solve that problem, that makes up the plot of the narrative. And the story ends, hopefully, when the problem's solved. Not always. Usually it's when there's a resolution. And a resolution does not always have to be a solution. It's just how the problem comes to an end. It may simply be that the problem can't be solved. So we've talked about memoirs before. Okay, memoirs focus on personal experiences and they're true, whereas fictional narratives have made up characters. Our memoirs are told from a first person point of view because we're telling a story from our own life. But a fictional narrative, we can tell it from the first person point of view, or we can tell it from the third person point of view. So there are some similarities between memoirs and fictional narratives. You'll see characters, setting, and plot in both forms of writing. You'll see those characters, setting, and the plot developed through dialogue, description, and figurative language. And often you see events organized in sequence order. Not always, but often. So, like I said, fictional narratives often have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. So we're going to go over what a good beginning looks like in our fictional narrative right now. So I'm going to start with this example text, this mentor text. Now you can pause the video and read this. I'm going to read the first sentence because I want to focus on the strategy that the author uses here to hook the reader. Lucas's heart raced as he stood at the edge of the school auditorium, clutching the script in his sweaty hands. So right there, the author has done a great job of hooking the reader or engaging the reader, bringing them into that narrative. Right away, I'm interested. I want to know what's happening. Why is his heart racing? Why is he clutching this script? The author uses very strong verbs there, to clutch instead of to hold. So the author's using an action-packed moment to draw the reader in. There are other strategies that writers can use. You can use a strong statement. For example, this is the biggest moment of Luca's young life. Or you can ask the audience a question. Is there anything worse for a naturally shy child than to be thrust into the spotlight at a major school event? So these are all ways we can engage the reader and get them interested in our writing. The job of that first sentence is to get the reader to want to read more. Also, in our introductions, we want to introduce the characters in our writing, the protagonist and often the antagonist, which we're going to talk more about in our next video. Our protagonist is our main character, and our antagonist is a character or some other force that's working against the main character. So in this example, Luca is the protagonist, but the antagonist is Luca's nervousness. His nerves are what's working against him. We want to introduce the setting. Remember, the setting is where and when a story takes place. You might not include when, or it might be a significant part of the story. That's up to you as the author. And you also want to introduce the problem. When you're introducing the problem in the introduction, think about why that problem would be significant to the audience. That helps you to establish a purpose in writing, and it gets you thinking about who your audience may be. So in this particular text, is it students who have a big performance? Is it kids who get nervous easily? Okay, so think about how Luca's problem relates to those people who are going to be reading the text. Okay, so in our introduction here, we've got our main character, Luca. We've got our setting, the school auditorium, and we've got the antagonist or the force or character that Luca is fighting against, which is his nervousness and the pressure he feels to succeed in this performance. So I have a mentor text here called The Lost Village. You can pause the video and you can read through this yourself. This is also available in the lesson in my TPT store. I have got another mentor text here along with a graphic organizer to help you organize your writing. Again, we're going to talk about things like escalation and climax in our future videos. But I want you, before we go, to think about what you might be able to write about if you were to draft your own fictional narrative. So, some questions you can ask yourself are, what do I like? What are my experiences, my interests, my hobbies? Is there something that you've experienced that's especially unusual or maybe especially exciting? Maybe that's something you want to share with your audience. You can ask yourself what-if questions. What if I lived in another time period? What if I had magical powers? Is there a place you've always wanted to visit? Could you write a story about that place? What are some problems that people are facing today? This could be something that's made up or something that you think is very realistic. Or is there something currently in the news that could inspire you to write a fictional narrative? So those are all ideas that you can take and you can apply to your own writing. So thank you so much for joining me in this video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. And I'll see you in our next video at the Language Arts Gallery.